Hi, this is Andrew Ribeiro. Welcome to Row Ford. I'm here today to talk to you about the 2013 Ford Escape. There are lots and lots of features and lots of advantages to looking at the Ford Escape, and I'm just going to take a couple minutes and show you some of the highlights about this car. Alright, so let's talk about a few of the features on this side of the car. Let's start with a couple of safety features I really like. One is the turn signals. It's on the mirror here. See that right there from a turning signal? The other, from a safety feature about lights, is see how the lights wrap all around to the side of the vehicle? That's a very cool thing as well, so people can actually see you. There are some technology pieces on this side of the car that I don't know if you may or may not have seen before. This circle right here is actually a camera. It's one of my favorite things because the number one thing people say to me that they cannot do is parallel park their car. This car with the mirrors on either side actually looks on either side of the road to find you the optimum parking spot and parallel parks it for you with some simple cues on the display, which I'll show you in a minute. But I've tried it a couple times, and it is crazy accurate at how well it gets into the parking spot. As a matter of fact, you have to kind of slow it down because it can do it quicker than I would ever feel that I could actually do it that quickly. So it's a very cool piece. See this black dot right here? This is kind of a neat piece as well. And then when you think about convenience and ease of things, this is the entire key. They call it a proximity key. It allows you to unlock and lock the car just by touching this little black dot right here. You may or not have heard that just opening that way, but to be able to lock and unlock the door just by this key. Oh, and by the way, you can actually start the car remotely with this key fob as well, all from the factory, which is another nice feature. If you back up a little bit and look at some of the lines of the car, the really cool rims. It's an SUV, but it's got some really interesting and some really sexy looks about it. Okay, so let's talk about some of the features on the back of the car. I don't always spend a lot of time on the back of a particular automobile, but this one I like to for a number of reasons. One, and most importantly, is this EcoBoost system. EcoBoost allows this to be a 4-cylinder turbo, and it's one of the reasons why they get such great gas mileage in it, which is 28 miles per gallon on the highway and 21 in town. Which also like to point out back here, backup camera, and a lot of cars have backup cameras now, which is true. I like that Ford adds not only the backup camera, but the parking sensors, because you're getting a couple different things that we use. One is our sight and the other is our hearing. So we might not pick it up on the camera that there's something important behind us, but between the cameras and the beeping, the chances of you backing into something should be really, really small. So wanted to point out both of those features. Two more things I want to point out in the back of the car. One, another safety feature is how the taillights wrap around. You think, well, why is that a big deal? Well, you want to make sure that people can see you on all sides of the car. So to be able to have that kind of wraparound taillight is a very big deal. And then the last thing I'm going to point out is probably something that most people don't point out at all. We're going to talk about the gas cap. How many people have ever had the check engine light on in their car? Most of us. And the first thing that happens when you call either the service department or the salesperson that sold you the car, they say to you, "Did you check your gas cap?" Well, Ford did something that I don't believe in all my research anybody else has done, is that there isn't one. There is not a gas cap. You think, well, gosh, I must have that light on all the time. No, they have a very sophisticated system that allows the cover to be the gas cap integrated with inside with an integrated cap. So there's no need any longer to worry about whether I've clicked it 3 times or 6 times or 12 times. It's all handled. So when you talk about longevity of a car, those things are very important, because after all, when the check engine light comes on, it means your car isn't being the most efficient, meaning you're not getting the best gas mileage, you're not getting the best performance, and Ford, in a very smart way, eliminated that altogether. Okay, so let's talk about some of the features inside the car. First and foremost, this is the best place to sit in the car, is right here at the steering wheel. So a lot of the things are all at your fingertips, which isn't unusual. A lot of cars today have all the things at your fingertips, such as on the door there are the 2-position memory seats, which is really nice. All your power seats are down here. Cruise controls for the display and the dash are all in properly positioned places. But one of the things that is my favorite about this car is Ford Sync. And Ford Sync allows you to do over 10,000 commands all by voice with the car, such as change the climate, talk to your friends on your phone, because your phone and your phone book get all dumped into there, set a destination, and navigation systems today in cars are really important, and a lot of people, it's a must-to-have. It's sort of an accessory that's a given these days. But one of the things I love about Ford is that they don't want you playing with that while you're driving. Makes sense. But they did give you the ability, instead of be touching this while you're driving, let's say I'm at a stoplight and I said, oh, I want to go to a particular destination, and I start to enter it in and the light turns green. Well, and traditionally, that would mean that my ability to enter in a destination would be over until I pulled over. What Ford with Sync has done is that I can continue to put the destination in by voice while I'm driving, which is a really nice piece, and a lot of my customers say that's a really nice creature comfort and a ease of use piece. Display I also like is that this touchscreen display and Sony have partnered up with us. Sony is a pretty popular name. I mean, when people think of the name Sony, they think of quality, and that's all in this car. Other than that, again, some standard features such as heated seats that you'll find, dual digital climate control, normal in high-end cars, in luxury cars. It's in this car segment, which is really great. And the last piece I'll point out that's a great thing is the panorama sunroof. All right, so we're here at the front of the car, and I want to talk about some features that really make this car really impactful. Earlier, we talked about gas mileage. On the engine of this, there's this big word called EcoBoost. It's on the back of the car. It's a big deal, and the reason why it's a big deal is it allows this car to have the power and performance of a 6-cylinder, but the efficiency of a 4-cylinder. How the heck do they do that? They do that this is a 4-cylinder turbo. It's not your typical, when people hear the word 4-cylinder, they can freak out and think it's going to be noisy, it can't get out of its own way. It's something you really want to experience and take a test drive in, because it is not your normal automobile, and EcoBoost really proves that. If I didn't tell you that it was a 4-cylinder turbo, you'd swear it was a 6-cylinder, actually. That's how effective that EcoBoost is to be able to be as efficient as possible to get every last bit of power out of there, but keep the gas mileage as high as possible. Some other things I would point out underneath the hood when we were doing this, from a highlight perspective, is I would point out how far into the cavity of this car that the engine sits. You think, well, why is that important? Well, it sits down like the engine of a car would be. You don't hear people talking about on automobiles, on sedans, how they have rollover ratings, etc., because they're so level-headed and so sure-footed on the ground. The same idea with this is put the heaviest thing that the automobile has as low as possible, making this very, very flat, very, very safe to handle and maneuver, because the most important thing, after all, in an accident isn't to survive it, it's to avoid it altogether. So everything you can do to do that and have the automobile work with you is an amazing piece. And the last thing I always like to point out that's kind of unusual is how, you notice how deep this is? I put my hand here and you can see how deep down that is. Well, in Maine especially, we have a lot of wildlife, a lot of things on the roads. Again, it's not about surviving the accidents, avoiding it altogether, but every once in a while something like that happens. They have these bumpers that they come to your knees, which is very important. It's been a safety feature on automobiles for a long time to have bumpers come to knees on an animal, or it's, God forbid, a pedestrian. But the idea of this is for lots of cushioning, because there's not a lot coming between you and what the elements other than a piece of glass. But if I can keep all of that here, that's very important. So this is a really interesting safety feature that you won't necessarily find on a lot of cars, but it allows the deer or any of those type of things, a log that you hit with that lands right here and stays here in cushioning. Again, hopefully with the maneuvering of this car, you'll be able to stay out of that altogether, but like to point that out because it's just an added safety feature of the car. So, with all of the features and specs of this Ford Escape, you really owe it to yourself to come down and take a drive in it. There's a lot of great cars in this segment, but when you get a chance to drive and see this car, not only will you see that it performs well, but it gets some of the best gas mileage in its segment. So I encourage you to come down. Again, my name is Andrea from Row Ford. We're at exit 48. Come in and ask for me. I would love to take you for a test drive.